Hello everyone! Long time no see. From the title of this video, you will see that this is something a little bit different than my normal reaction videos. But I thought this audience might appreciate this type of video and what I have to share. So, this past year of 2020, I got into reading. Yep, never been much of a reader, but I was like, you know what? I've watched all of the queer content that is in existence, so maybe I can do another platform and read some of it. And I asked Twitter a while back if they had any recommendations for women loving women books, preferably fantasy, sci-fi, some period pieces I like, stuff like that. And sure enough, Twitter responded. I made a list from all of everyone's responses. I'm going to talk about the books that I've read and recommend them to you because I've loved all of them so far. So maybe after this video you will read or listen to. I did audiobooks for pretty much all of them, but I followed along and read for some of them as well because I'm just getting myself back into reading. So yeah, I thought that was a good way for me to do that, especially because I have ADD and get distracted easily. So without further ado, I'm gonna go in order, kind of, unless they're sequels. And all of these books, by the way, have happy endings for the gays. I wouldn't recommend them if there wasn't a happy ending. Okay, let's get started. So, the first book that I read was Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. First of all, it was the most recommended on Twitter. And it was the first book that I read, so I think it was a good introduction into the queer world, Sapphic world. And Sapphic is probably the best word to describe it. Definitely a sense of longing in certain points, definitely a lot of clashing, but the coolest part about this book is the twists and turns. So many. It keeps you on your toes. It's brilliant. It takes place in the 1800s, so it's a period piece set in Britain. And I loved it. It's a long one, but worth it. So worth it. Okay, so I didn't read this next book second. I read a different book and then came back to this one. But I want to put these together because it's by the same author. This one is Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters. And oh my god. This, first of all, this was written before Fingersmith, I believe. This was so much more gay than I had ever anticipated, like had ever thought. Because it's a period piece, it takes place in the late 1800s, I did not expect so much, like so much gay. Like, it's hard to explain, like, without ruining it, but there's so many situations that are so Sapphic, and there's so much androgyny and breaking like stereotypical norms of what women look like and how they dressed in society back then. Like, think Gentleman Jack. A lot of that. So good. This one is a lot more erotic than Fingersmith. I'm not complaining. Definitely interesting, super good. I loved it. Happy ending, of course. Also, obviously British, takes place in the UK. If you love period pieces, this is for you. I forgot, the first book that I read actually is called Queerleaders by M.B. Guel. They're a friend of mine, and I read it first. Easy read, really cute. The main character is a lesbian. She's also a person of color. And yeah, it's like, it's sort of, there's definitely like ups and downs, and you don't really know who she's gonna end up with, which is really nice. It's fun, it makes it fun, and you stay on your toes. But it's super cute ending, and redemption story for some of the characters. Loved it. So the second book that I read in order was A Fire and Stars. This is fantasy, lots of fantasy. It's a fantasy book. Oh, it's kind of not necessarily enemies, but they don't like each other at first, turned lovers. Oh, it's great. It's really good. And I love the magical aspect of it. It's you know, based in like castle times. I don't know when that was, but like it's definitely Game of Thrones vibes era, but like a utopian world where there's magic. Princesses and princes and princesses falling in love. I loved listening to the audiobook for this one, cause I don't know, I just loved it. I've gotten super into audiobooks, guys. 10 out of 10, recommend it. I believe the next book that I read was 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which was recommended by my friend Casey. This book is heartbreakingly beautiful. It's sort of like a memoir, but with like a little bit of like a present time thing happening. It follows this old actress from like the 50s, 60s, you know, that era, who obviously she has had several husbands, but you find out who she was actually in love with, who was the love of her life. And it's so beautiful. It's so sad, but it's so beautiful. I loved it. There's so many relationships in this story that are wonderful. Like, also a lot of representation in this as well, which wasn't expected, especially in the modern day sections of it. Like, lots of people of color. The woman who is writing this memoir is a woman of color. Evelyn herself is unexpectedly also a woman of color, but she's this like blonde, tan big boobed, beautiful woman. Anyway, I'm like not doing this justice, but I definitely recommend it. Beautiful story. I loved it. 10 out of 10. Hi, editing Haley here. So I had to split this in 2 parts. So click here to watch the second part. The second part will be better, I'm sure, because the last few books are some of my favorites. And I love them and I'm very passionate about them. So yeah, click here, watch part 2.